Welcome back, and to shed more light on the summit and on the speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi via video conference tackling as we listened to the report. He spoke about a number of pivotal issues, vital issues, and unfortunately he mentioned the double standards and discrimination, which in my humble opinion are of the very important reasons behind all the crises the whole world is suffering from. To shed more light on this, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone His Excellency Ambassador Amb Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister of Commercial. Thank you very much for being with us, sir, and a very good morning.
Good morning to you.
Sir, as I said in my intro, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi addressed the UN session on the Summit of Future Global Call via video conference, and in fact there were a number of very, let's say, key words or important points which were tackled. If you permit me, I'd like to start with implementing the UN Charter without discrimination and without the double standard policies, because I think it's really of the main reasons behind the crises the whole world is suffering from right now. If you agree with me on that, and would you please elaborate?
Yes, of course, I agree with you. I completely absorb and agree and support this position, because what we have seen since 1948, not just yesterday, I'm speaking about 70 years now, double standards are always exerted by influencing the situation in the Middle East, and all the Middle East. We have seen it in how they deal with the Arab countries and they deal the other party, that is Israel, in this respect. So the double standards are quite clear in this respect when we are speaking about human rights, the rights of the civilians in the Palestinian occupied territories. This means that the double standards are completely absorbed and completely implemented by the United Nations because of the influence of some political forces, which we all know. That is what we are complaining of, and this is we are also not complaining of, but also we are suffering from this situation in our country, whether it is Egypt or Jordan or Syria or Lebanon or the other countries who are dealing, supporting peace process and dealing with the situation to establish some viable peace. I say viable peace, not just fragile peace.
Before going to another point tackled in the President's speech, sir, this speech took place, or this session took place, while there were international condemnation regarding the latest Israeli strike on a school sheltering hundreds or maybe thousands of displaced Palestinians, and the UN head, Antonio Guterres, only said that the attack is totally unacceptable, just unacceptable. How do you see this equation, if I may call it this way?
It cannot be just unacceptable. It is against all the principles of the United Nations itself. What was in the aggression against civilians, deliberately killing the children and the kids and going to the schools is not just unacceptable, it is deplorable and should be challenged and condemned in all possible ways, because otherwise it is just the word unacceptable. Unacceptable for someone means acceptable for the others. So it cannot be accepted by any human being in the world. Just the aggressors, they should be punished and penalized for what they have done to civilians in Gaza.
Amen to that, sir. And the President said it that clearly, that the session and also the summit, which is going to take place just in a few days from now, or exactly on the 22nd and the 23rd of September, he said that it's taking place while the whole world is facing a number of crises, and particularly the Middle East region. He also called for fixing or for uniting together to achieve international security and stability. How do you see this call, and how do you see this call as a general call, not only directed to the Middle East, but to the Middle East in specific, because unfortunately thousands of people are martyred because of the current conflicts?
what we are seeing now is just the genocide in its clear demonstration. What we are seeing now in Gaza is against all the principles of the United Nations itself. President Abdel Fattah is trying to safeguard the rights of the civilians in the Palestinian territories, occupied territories, and also mobilizing the world against the aggression. This is very important to mobilize the public opinion and all the world against the aggression in Gaza, in the western bank of Palestine. This is very important because Egypt alone can do, and Egypt with the others can do a lot more. It is very important that all the world should be supportive to the call of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and should be materialized in action against the aggression in Palestinian territories. That is very important now, because if it is not stopped now, it will spread to other countries, whether in the Middle East or maybe in other parts of the world.
Yeah. Also, the head of state called for reforming the structure of a global financial system and to give a hand or to support the developing countries, the emerging economies, because with the current conflicts, it's becoming more difficult a day after the other to achieve economic sustainable development. How do you see this also, sir, as one of the important points tackled by the President yesterday?
This is a very important, or would I say the most important aspect of the speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The developing countries or the underdeveloped countries or emerging economies, they need to be supported and not penalized for trying to find a place under the sun. When we see the conditions laid by the financiers or the IMF or World Bank, it is very severe because of these countries need grace period, more grace period, so that they can establish the basics of the sustainable development process in their countries. When I speak in their countries, I'm specifically speaking about the Middle East and Egypt in this respect. So we need better terms, because the seemingly equitable terms, they are not equitable, because it is penalizing the emerging countries who are aspiring to have a better level standard of living, and also the rates of on the loans. The interest rates are very high and cannot be accepted, and we cannot pay 8% on the loans. Just 1 or 2% is more than enough in this respect.
So when he called for efforts to be exerted for eradicating accumulated poverty, and I like really the description, accumulated poverty, and also to obtain or to achieve food security and to fight all the obstacles in front of achieving food security, this is part and parcel of, let's call it this way, the national security, the global national security, because without that, nobody can do.
Exactly. The global national security for the individuals and for the countries is very important, because the severe and very, very unfair conditions which are laid on the developing countries are hampering sustainable development and also retarding it a lot. We have seen this in the loans, conditions of loans which are given by the IMF or World Bank or other institutions, or even the big financing companies, I will not mention their names, when they are putting very high interest rates and very severe conditions on the loans they are giving to development projects. Development projects are very important because they mean the livelihood of millions in the developing countries. We need equitable share in the international wealth, and also a place under the sun, so that we can develop in a sustainable way and acceptable way to the people, to millions of people in the developing countries.
Sir, do you think that words like structural reform, like sustainable development goals, like sustainability in general, I think now these words are key words and they are finding their ways into even the periodical reports or monthly even reports by all international institutions to make sure that whenever a plan is put, it's really implemented on the ground for the best interest of any people all over the world, if you agree with me.
It is complete. That is, I fully agree with that point of view, because we need perpetual inspection of what has been done on the ground so that we can correct it if it's not in the right form. This is one thing. The other thing is that we need to see the result of the aid, which the aid in each form, in whatever form is given to these countries. The result should be inspected and checked and cross-checked to see that it is going to the right form and implemented in the right way, which was inspired by the countries who are in much need to this aid, because in some cases we have seen that the aid is going to non-productive projects, and this is against the aspirations of the people of these countries. We need well-focused projects on development projects which will reflect directly, directly reflect on the livelihood of the civilians and the people in these countries.
And particularly the youth. Simply the conference or the summit is called the Future Global Call. Future, it's youth. Future, it's the next generations. How do you see also the importance of empowering youth and empowering women to lead in the coming phase or in the very near future, to make sure that they are going to have their full chance to practice their job, to lead the future or to build their own futures by their own hands?
This is the most important point. We need to pave the way and make it easier for the new generations, that the youth, mainly the women, so that they can find a place, their rightful place under the sun, and make use of what is available of development resources, which are very, there is a wide range of development resources which are not properly used because they are monopolized by some narrow circles of people who are usurping the power and also misusing it for their own interest. It will not reflect on the masses, and the youth and the women need to enjoy the sacrifices of their recent generations, because they want also to build a better future for themselves and also for the country.
And since we are also mentioning the future, meaning that it's modern technology, it's science, it's research, it's having a scientific plan for any experience, for any project, to make sure that it's going to turn into a story of success. Nothing is haphazard, nothing is just taking place just like that. Now the case is totally different. Also, the President mentioned the importance of education and the importance of technology transfer, the importance of taking into consideration that the future means technology. How do you see this, sir?
This is a roadmap, a clear roadmap. The roadmap has many parts: the new generation, the modern technology, transfer of technology, and all these aspects which Iraqi spoke about are very important too, because they constitute the ingredients of the roadmap, which need to be clear so that every person and every organization knows its role and what it is required to do and what it can do, and we need to gauge the results every 3 months, if I can say, or monthly, so that we can correct any deviations from the main purpose. And that is very important, this roadmap, because it is detailed. This means that it covers the needs of the people, the needs of the countries, and needs of the governments all over the world, not only in Egypt.
Also, sir, the coming summit is going to mark the 30th anniversary of the landmark International Conference on Population and Development. Population and development, and here many or a list of points should be added, because population and development, meaning science, meaning education, meaning health, meaning good finance, meaning governance, meaning the way to eradicate poverty, to give job opportunities to the youth, to enable the youth to meet the requirements of the labor market, all this and maybe more. How do you see this conference in specific and its timing in this very critical period the whole world is facing?
The whole world is looking now to the results of the next summit, which we will see after a couple of some days. It is very important that we specify what is needed for every community, because needs are different from this community, from other communities, and that is, I say, community or country. In this respect, when we need this roadmap is clear, specifying what the steps which should be taken, not can be taken, which should be taken to raise the standard of living, and also the people need to reap the results of their effort. And many people are working and find that the results are far less than what they deserve. That is very important, especially in developing countries. We need a better use of foreign aid and a better use of modern technology, and also a better use of the available resources, because in many countries the resources are not properly used, and that is why they feel they are poor, but they are not poor, they are rich as far as the natural resources are available in their own countries. United Nations is putting a roadmap for these countries to find.
But this roadmap cannot be implemented on the ground, sir, if you permit me to interrupt here, without putting an end to the conflicts which are taking place. So my final question is going to be about these conflicts, where these conflicts can be, introduced in the coming summit, as a priority. Don't you think that simply, as we are going to speak about the future, to put ending all the struggles all over the world, by the way, here not only the Israeli genocide war in Gaza, but the Israeli genocide war in Gaza, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the war in Sudan, the instability in Libya or in Yemen, all over the world. How do you see putting an end to these conflicts as one of the first priorities or of the first files which should be discussed in the coming UN summit?
I think that the first priority is putting an end to the conflicts which you are seeing everywhere, whether in Burma or in Sudan or in Yemen or Syria or in Iraq or in other parts of the world, or in Ukraine, as you mentioned, because this is very important so that we can stability, which enables prosperity and progress. Because with these conflicts, they have wide effects to the countries around them. When we speak about Ukraine, you see what was happening with Ukraine, not only affecting Russia, but also affecting Egypt and other countries in the Middle East who are dealing with Ukraine. So the conflict in any country is not only for this country, but it reflects passively reflects on the other countries. So we need to put an end to conflicts in many parts of the world. You mentioned about 5 or 6 conflicts, and there are more which can arise at any moment, whether in Africa or in Asia, or even in Latin America. And it is very important for the world and for the United Nations itself to put an end in any possible way as soon as possible, so that we can have peace, stability, and prosperity.
Well, Ambassador Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good day.
Thank
right
you.
after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.